12 mistakes that led to breakthroughs, from dynamite to champagne. Let's begin. Number 1. Dynamite. A leaking jar changed construction forever. This clear liquid is one of the most powerful explosives ever discovered. It is also completely unpredictable. A bump, a temperature change, a drop hitting the floor. Nitroglycerin explodes without warning. Nobody could use it safely circumflex euros until one accident changed everything. Nitroglycerin was powerful enough to blast through solid rock circumflex euros, but it exploded unpredictably. Factories blew up. Ships detonated in harbors. Alfred Nobel's own brother was killed in an explosion at their family factory. The explosive worked, but nobody could use it without risking their life. Nobel noticed that nitroglycerin leaking from a jar had soaked into the packing material circumflex euros, a chalky powder called kysyl gur. The soaked powder was still explosive, but it no longer detonated from bumps or drops. It needed a deliberate blasting cap. Nobel called it dynamite circumflex euros, a stable explosive you could actually control. Dynamite blasted railway tunnels through mountains. It carved the Panama Canal through solid rock. Mines produced ore efficiently and far more safely. Roads and dams were built through terrain that was previously impassable. The most dangerous substance in chemistry became the most useful tool in construction. An accidental leak turned the most dangerous substance in chemistry into the most useful. Dynamite built railways, canals, mines, and roads. And the fortune it made funded the Nobel Prize circumflex euros, turning the profits of explosives into the world's most famous award for peace. Number 2. Coca-Cola. A failed headache cure became the world's drink. He was trying to cure headaches. The syrup did nothing for headaches. But when he mixed it with carbonated water and tasted it, he realized he had made something far more valuable than medicine. He had made the drink that would become the most famous beverage on Earth. In the 1880s, pharmacists sold flavored syrups mixed with soda water. They called them tonics and claimed they cured headaches, fatigue, and nervousness. None of them worked as medicine, but people kept buying them anyway circumflex euros because they tasted good. The cure was never the point. John Pemberton mixed coca leaf, cola nut, sugar, and flavorings into a syrup. As medicine, it was ordinary. But when it was accidentally mixed with carbonated water instead of still, the combination was irresistible. Customers asked for it by name. The failed medicine became a fountain drink circumflex euros, and the drink became Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola was bottled, branded, and shipped worldwide. The distinctive contour bottle was designed to be recognized by touch alone. Soldiers carried it across the world during 2 world wars. The red and white logo became the most recognized brand on Earth circumflex euros, all from a pharmacist's failed headache cure. A pharmacist tried to cure headaches and failed. What he made instead is now sold in over 200 countries. Coca-Cola circumflex euros, the most successful accident in the history of food and drink. Proof that the best discoveries sometimes come from getting everything wrong. Number 3. Saccharin. Unwashed hands discovered artificial sweetness. The bread tasted sweet. The napkin tasted sweet. His fingers tasted sweet. The chemist had forgotten to wash his hands after work, and something from his laboratory was on everything he touched. He had accidentally discovered the first artificial sweetener. Sugar was the only sweetener. It was expensive, labor-intensive to produce, and dangerous for people with diabetes. If you could not eat sugar, nothing in your life tasted sweet. There was no alternative. The idea of sweetness without sugar did not exist. Fahlberg rushed back to his lab and tasted every compound on his bench until he found the sweet one. It was derived from coal tar circumflex euros, an industrial waste product. It was 300 times sweeter than sugar with 0 calories. He called it Saccharin a circumflex euros, and the artificial sweetener industry was born. Saccharin replaced sugar during wartime rationing. It launched diet soft drinks in the 1960s. It gave people with diabetes sweet-tasting food for the first time. It inspired an entire industry a circumflex euros. Aspartame, sucralose, stevia, a circumflex euros, all because one chemist forgot to wash his hands. Every diet drink, every sugar-free label, every sweetener packet a circumflex euros. The trail leads back to a chemist who forgot to wash his hands before dinner. The sweetest accident in the history of science. Number 4. Photography. A broken thermometer made images last. The image was their a circumflex euros, a window captured in light on a silver plate, but it was fading. In a few hours it would vanish completely. Then something drifted across the plate, a circumflex euros, mercury vapor from a broken thermometer. The image stopped fading. It was locked in place. Permanent. Photography was born. Capturing an image required an artist, days of work, and considerable skill. The camera obscura projected images onto a surface a circumflex euros, but they vanished the moment you stopped projecting. Scientists could make light burn images into chemical coatings, but the images always faded. Nobody could make a picture last. Degas stored a fading plate in a cupboard overnight. A broken thermometer inside was leaking mercury vapor. The next morning, the image was sharp and permanent. He tested it again, a circumflex euros, deliberately exposing plates to mercury a circumflex euros, and it worked every time. A broken thermometer had solved the problem that no scientist could crack. Portrait studios opened in every city a circumflex euros. Ordinary people saw their own faces for the first time. Newspapers printed photographs instead of illustrations. Scientists documented what they discovered. Families preserved memories for generations. The camera shrank from a studio to a pocket, all because of one broken thermometer. A broken thermometer in a cupboard. That is what it took to give the world photography. Every portrait, every newspaper image, every photo on your phone a circumflex euros. The trail leads back to an accident in a Paris workshop that made an image last forever. Number 5. Radioactivity. A cloudy day revealed invisible energy. This plate was stored in a dark drawer. No light ever touched it. But when it was developed, a clear image appeared a circumflex euros, the shape of a metal cross that had been resting on top. Something invisible came out of the uranium and burned through the darkness. Nobody had ever seen anything like it. Physics had neat categories a circumflex euros: light, heat, electricity, magnetism. Atoms were considered solid and inert. The idea that a piece of rock could spontaneously emit invisible energy that could pass through solid materials and expose photographic film was completely unthinkable. Becquerel was testing whether sunlight-activated uranium emitted X-rays. Cloudy weather ruined the experiment, so he put everything in a drawer and forgot about it. Days later, he developed the plates expecting blanks. Instead, he found clear images. The uranium was emitting rays on its own a circumflex euros, no sunlight needed. Radioactivity. Marie Curie isolated radium and discovered new elements. Medical imaging used invisible rays to see inside the body. Radiation therapy treated cancer. Nuclear power generated electricity. Carbon dating revealed the age of fossils and artifacts. One accidental discovery rewrote our understanding of matter and energy. A cloudy day, a forgotten drawer, and a piece of uranium. That is all it took to discover that atoms contain invisible energy powerful enough to change medicine, generate electricity, and rewrite the laws of physics. The greatest accidental discovery in the history of science. Number 6. Kevlar. A failed polymer became bulletproof fiber. This thread is thinner than a hair. Pull it with enough force to snap a steel wire and it holds. 5 times stronger than steel at the same weight. It was never supposed to exist. The chemist who created it was trying to make something completely different. Body armor meant heavy metal plates. Steel helmets weighed soldiers down. Metal shields protected vehicles but added tons. Police officers had nothing a circumflex euros. No practical body armor existed that was light enough to wear on duty. Protection and mobility were opposites. Stephanie Kwolek was making a polymer for lightweight fuel lines. Her solution turned cloudy and thin a circumflex euros, a clear failure. Colleagues said throw it out. She insisted on testing it. The cloudy liquid spun into fibers that were 5 times stronger than steel. The technicians thought the machine was broken. It was not. Kevlar became the standard for bulletproof vests a circumflex euros, light enough for police officers to wear every day. Military helmets dropped to half the weight of steel. Spacecraft used Kevlar panels against debris. Racing cars, bicycle helmets, cut-resistant gloves. One failed experiment now protects millions of lives. A failed experiment that colleagues wanted to throw away. A chemist who insisted on testing it anyway. Kevlar has saved thousands of lives in bulletproof vests alone. The strongest fiber ever made a circumflex euros, born from a mistake that almost ended up in the bin. Number 7. Corn Flakes. Forgotten dough invented breakfast cereal. Millions of people eat this every morning. Golden flakes, milk, done in 30 seconds. It is the most recognizable breakfast on Earth. And it was invented by accident a circumflex euros, when 2 brothers forgot about a batch of wheat and came back to find something unexpected. In the 1890s, breakfast was a production. Porridge needed 30 minutes of stirring. Eggs and meat had to be cooked from scratch. The kitchen was busy from before dawn. Working families often skipped breakfast entirely because there simply was not enough time. The Kellogg brothers cooked wheat for their sanitarium patients, then forgot about it for days. The dough went stale. They ran it through rollers anyway a circumflex euros, and instead of flat sheets it came out as individual flakes. They baked the flakes, crispy, light, and delicious. Their patients loved them. Will Kellogg mass-produce the flakes using corn instead of wheat a circumflex euros, crispier and cheaper? Breakfast cereal became an industry. Hundreds of competitors followed. The morning meal went from an hour-long production to a 30-second pour. Corn Flakes did not just change breakfast a circumflex euros, they gave working families their mornings back. Forgotten dough, stale wheat, and a pair of rollers. That is all it took to invent breakfast cereal and transform how the world starts the day. The most important meal was never cooked a circumflex euros. It was an accident. Number 8. Anesthesia. A party trick ended surgical agony. He crashed into the table hard enough to bruise his leg. He did not feel a thing. Everyone laughed a circumflex euros. It was just a party trick. But a dentist in the corner was not laughing. He was thinking, if this gas blocks pain at a party, could it block pain during surgery? Before anesthesia, patients were awake for every cut. Assistants held them down. The surgeon's only mercy was speed a circumflex euros, finish in under 2 minutes. Whiskey was the best painkiller available. People feared surgery more than the disease. Thousands of years of medicine, and nobody could stop the pain. In 1846, William Morton demonstrated ether anesthesia at Massachusetts General Hospital. The patient breathed in and fell asleep. The surgeon operated. The patient did not move or cry out. When he woke, he said he felt nothing. The surgeon turned to the stunned gallery and declared, "This is no humbug." Anesthesia transformed surgery from a 2-minute race into a precise, careful procedure. Heart surgery, brain surgery, organ transplants a circumflex euros, all impossible without it. Dentistry became painless. Childbirth gained pain relief options. One gas turned the most feared experience in medicine into something patients sleep through. A man at a party felt no pain. A dentist noticed, and thousands of years of surgical agony ended. Anesthesia, a circumflex euros, the most important accident in the history of medicine, a circumflex euros, was born at a party and changed every operating room on Earth. Number 9. Potato chips. A spiteful chef invented the world's snack. The chef was furious. The customer had sent the potatoes back twice a circumflex euros too thick, so the chef sliced them as thin as paper, fried them until they crunched, and salted them out of pure spite. He expected a complaint. He got a revolution. In the 1850s, snack food barely existed. Potatoes were fried thick and soft, a circumflex euros, a side dish, not a snack. There were no crunchy, salty, addictive foods. No packaged snacks. Eating between meals was considered improper. The idea of food made purely for fun had not arrived. Chef George Crumb had had enough. He sliced the potatoes as thin as he possibly could, fried them until they were rigid, and buried them in salt. The customer bit into one a circumflex euros, crunch a circumflex euros, and ordered more. The entire dining room wanted them. Crumb called them Saratoga chips, a snack born from an argument. Saratoga chips spread to every restaurant in America. The sealed bag made them portable. Factories produced millions of bags a day. Flavors multiplied, a circumflex euros, salt and vinegar, barbecue, cheese, and hundreds more. Potato chips became the best-selling snack food on the planet, a circumflex euros, sold in virtually every country. A chef tried to annoy a difficult customer and accidentally invented the world's most popular snack. Potato chips, a circumflex euros. Billions of bags sold every year, a circumflex euros, born from a kitchen argument and a chef who sliced out of spite. Number 10. Silly Putty. A useless blob sold 300 million eggs. It bounces higher than a rubber ball. It stretches without tearing. It copies newspaper ink. It does everything, a circumflex euros, except the one thing it was invented for. This useless blob of failed synthetic rubber became one of the best-selling toys in history. During World War II, Japan cut off access to rubber plantations in Southeast Asia. The military needed rubber desperately, a circumflex euros, for tires, seals, and gaskets. Chemists across America raced to create a synthetic substitute. Every failed experiment was another day without enough rubber for the war effort. James Wright mixed boric acid with silicone oil and got a bouncy, stretchy, gooey blob. As rubber, it was useless, a circumflex euros. It would not hold shape under pressure. He showed it to colleagues. Everyone played with it. Nobody could find a practical use. For years, it sat in a drawer, a circumflex euros, a fun failure. A toy seller named Peter Hodgson packed the blob into plastic eggs and sold them for $1 each. 300 million eggs later, Silly Putty is one of the best-selling toys ever made. Astronauts used it in space to secure tools in zero gravity. Therapists use it for hand exercises. A failed rubber substitute that nobody wanted. A toy seller who saw fun where chemists saw failure. 300 million eggs sold. Silly Putty, a circumflex euros, proof that the best inventions sometimes come from the things that did not work at all. Number 11. Scotchgard. A spill that wouldn't clean became stain protection. Coffee poured directly onto white fabric. It should stain instantly. Instead, the liquid beads up and rolls off, a circumflex euros. The surface stays perfectly dry. This invisible shield exists because a lab assistant accidentally spilled a chemical on her shoe and nobody could get it off. Stains were a fact of life. Spill something on a carpet and it soaked in permanently. Splash coffee on a shirt and it was ruined. Raincoats absorbed water and became heavy. There was no way to treat fabric so that liquids could not get into it. Prevention was impossible. A circumflex euros, you just cleaned up afterward. Patsy Sherman spilled a fluorochemical on her canvas shoe. She tried to clean it off. A circumflex euros, water, soap, alcohol, every solvent in the lab. Nothing worked. Then she noticed something. The spot on her shoe was repelling everything. Water beat it up. Dirt slid off. The stain she could not remove was protecting the shoe. 3M launched Scotchgard, a circumflex euros, an invisible coating that makes fabric repel water, oil, and dirt. Carpets, furniture, clothing, outdoor gear, car interiors, a circumflex euros, all protected. Spills that would have been permanent stains now bead up and wipe away. An entire industry of fabric protection born from one accidental spill. A chemical spill on a shoe that nobody could clean. Instead of seeing a mistake, Patsy Sherman saw a breakthrough. Scotchgard made stains optional. A circumflex euros, and proved that the best protection sometimes comes from the thing you accidentally could not remove. Number 12. Champagne. Exploding wine became the drink of celebration. The pop of the cork, the burst of fizz, the stream of tiny bubbles rising in the glass. Champagne is the drink of celebration. A circumflex euros, weddings, victories, New Year's, and it was never supposed to exist. The bubbles were a mistake that winemakers spent years trying to fix. Winemakers in the Champagne region hated the bubbles. Cold winters stopped fermentation. When spring warmed the cellars, the yeast restarted inside sealed bottles and the pressure built until they exploded. Winemakers lost up to 90% of their bottles. They called it the devil's wine. A circumflex euros, a humiliating failure. Instead of fighting the bubbles, winemakers embraced them. They developed stronger bottles that could handle the pressure. Corks replaced stoppers. Wire cages held the corks in place. The M.A. copyright thode champenoise was perfected. A circumflex euros, controlling the secondary fermentation to produce fine, consistent bubbles. The flaw became the feature. French royalty adopted champagne as the drink of the court. It became the toast of every celebration. A circumflex euros, weddings, victories, milestones. Ships are launched with it. New Year's countdowns end with it. The drink that was once a humiliating failure became the universal symbol of success. Exploding bottles, ruined vintages, and a flaw nobody wanted. Champagne exists because someone stopped trying to fix the bubbles and started selling them instead. The most celebrated drink in the world. A circumflex euros, proof that the best ideas sometimes come from giving up on getting it right.